The evolving relationship between Iran and Turkey represents a significant shift in the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. Historically marked by rivalry and tension, the two regional powers now share a more complex alliance. This new dynamic blends both cooperation and competition, driven by economic, security, and political factors that have reshaped their interactions. Key developments, such as changes in U.S. foreign policy, regional instability, and evolving power dynamics, have played a crucial role in transforming this relationship. For much of the 20th century, Iran and Turkey were rivals, divided by different ideological paths. Turkey, a member of NATO and a secular state since the fall of the Ottoman Empire, had a generally Western-leaning foreign policy. Iran, on the other hand, underwent a revolutionary transformation in 1979, establishing an Islamic republic that took a sharply anti-Western stance. Their interests often clashed, particularly in the areas of regional security and influence over Middle Eastern conflicts. However, in the 21st century, both nations have undergone significant changes that have paved the way for more pragmatic, albeit cautious, cooperation. While they maintain different ideological frameworks, their mutual interests in counterbalancing Western influence, securing economic growth, and managing regional security threats have brought them closer together. One of the main driving forces behind this shift is the economic relationship between Iran and Turkey. Despite the extensive sanctions placed on Iran by Western nations, Turkey has consistently engaged in trade and energy exchanges with its neighbor. These economic ties have created a pragmatic interdependence. For example, Turkey relies on Iranian oil and gas imports, and in return, Iran benefits from Turkish exports of goods and services. This economic partnership has remained resilient even under the pressure of international sanctions. Turkey, which has long sought to diversify its energy sources, sees Iran as a key supplier, particularly as it seeks to reduce its dependency on Russian energy imports. Iran, on the other hand, values Turkey as one of the few regional powers willing to maintain trade relations despite external pressures. In 2021, trade between the two countries reached nearly $5 billion, and while this figure is significantly lower than its peak of $22 billion in 2012, it underscores the enduring nature of their economic ties. The two nations have also explored expanding their cooperation in areas such as tourism, infrastructure development, and cross-border investments. In addition to economic cooperation, Iran and Turkey have found common ground in addressing regional security challenges. Both countries face the threat of terrorism, border instability, and the refugee crisis stemming from the Syrian civil war. These shared security concerns have prompted them to collaborate in various forums and initiatives aimed at stabilizing the region. One notable example of this cooperation is the Astana process, a series of diplomatic talks between Iran, Turkey, and Russia that seeks to resolve the Syrian conflict. Despite supporting opposing sides in the war, Turkey backs certain rebel groups while Iran supports the Assad regime. Both nations have recognized the importance of finding a political solution to the crisis. Their participation in the Astana talks has allowed them to coordinate efforts to manage the conflict, reduce hostilities, and address the humanitarian crisis in Syria. Moreover, both Turkey and Iran have played critical roles in managing the flow of refugees from Syria. Turkey currently hosts over 3.6 million Syrian refugees, while Iran has provided shelter to over 1 million. While their approaches to the Syrian crisis differ, their shared interest in preventing further destabilization has prompted cooperation, particularly in managing border security and refugee flows. Despite their collaboration on certain security issues, military cooperation between Iran and Turkey remains complex and at times contradictory. This is particularly evident in regions where their geopolitical interests overlap. While Turkey has supported various Sunni rebel groups and opposed the Assad regime, Iran has provided significant military and financial support to Assad's forces. This divergence in objectives has led to moments of tension and competition, although both nations have managed to avoid direct confrontation. More recently, both Iran and Turkey have sought to enhance their military capabilities and strategic influence in the region. Iran's development of drone technologies and missile systems, as well as its growing partnership with Russia, has strengthened its military presence in the region. Turkey, for its part, has invested heavily in developing its defense industry, particularly its drone program, which has been deployed in conflicts in Libya, Nagorno-Karabakh, and Syria. This military competition, while not always direct, reflects the ongoing rivalry between the two nations as they vie for influence in the Middle East. High-level diplomatic meetings between Iranian and Turkish leaders have become more frequent in recent years, signaling a commitment to maintaining open lines of communication. In September 2023, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi met on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. This meeting marked a significant moment in the evolution of their relationship, as the two leaders discussed ways to enhance regional cooperation and unity among Islamic nations. During the meeting, both Erdogan and Raisi emphasized the importance of strengthening ties between their countries and promoting a united front among Islamic nations. They proposed the creation of a large common market to facilitate better economic, academic, and scientific exchanges between Iran and Turkey. This proposal reflects a broader vision shared by both leaders, a future where Islamic nations are more united and capable of asserting their influence on the global stage. The leaders also addressed several geopolitical issues, including the ongoing conflict in Gaza. President Raisi stressed the importance of unity among Islamic nations to address the humanitarian crisis in the region, while President Erdogan expressed support for these sentiments. This focus on regional unity and cooperation underscores the evolving nature of their alliance, particularly in the face of escalating violence in the Middle East. Russia plays a critical role in the relationship between Iran and Turkey. Both nations have developed close ties with Moscow, particularly in the areas of military cooperation and regional diplomacy. Russia's involvement in the Syrian conflict, where it supports the Assad regime alongside Iran, has further complicated the dynamics between Turkey, Iran, and Russia. However, all three countries have managed to find common ground in their efforts to stabilize Syria and limit U.S. influence in the region. Russia's role as a major arms supplier to both Turkey and Iran has also strengthened its position as a key player in the region. Iran's growing reliance on Russian military technology, particularly drones, has further solidified the partnership between the two countries. Similarly, Turkey's purchase of the Russian S-400 missile defense system, despite opposition from NATO, highlights the deepening ties between Ankara and Moscow. The evolving relationship between Iran and Turkey has significant implications for their ties with the United States and Western powers. Both nations have a complicated relationship with the U.S., shaped by a mix of rivalry, cooperation, and competition. For Turkey, its role as a NATO member and a key ally of the U.S. in the Middle East has often been at odds with its growing ties to Iran and Russia. The U.S. views Turkey's relationship with Iran through a complex lens, balancing concerns over regional stability with the strategic roles that both nations play. Washington has long seen Turkey as a counterbalance to Iran's influence in the region, particularly in conflicts like Syria and Iraq. However, Turkey's increasing cooperation with Iran, especially in economic sectors like energy, complicates this role. Similarly, Iran's relationship with the U.S. is defined by decades of hostility, particularly over issues such as its nuclear program and regional ambitions. The U.S. has imposed heavy sanctions on Iran, aiming to curb its influence and limit its access to global markets. Turkey's willingness to engage with Iran, despite these sanctions, underscores its desire to maintain strategic autonomy in its foreign policy. Looking ahead, the relationship between Turkey and Iran is likely to continue evolving, shaped by both regional and global factors. However, both nations have demonstrated a pragmatic willingness to engage in trade and investment, particularly in areas like energy and infrastructure. On the security front, cooperation between Turkey and Iran will likely remain focused on counterterrorism efforts and managing regional conflicts. Diplomatically, the relationship between Iran, Turkey, and Russia will play a significant role in shaping the future of the Middle East. While rivalry and competition remain, the two nations have found common ground in their economic and security interests, paving the way for a more pragmatic alliance. Thanks for watching, and make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and put notifications on to stay updated on everything related to AI, robotics, and military technology.